Hi, and welcome to my channel, Shades of Sage, where I share all things motherhood. My name is Tashima. I am a doula and mom of 4, and today I'm going to be sharing my postpartum recovery, my postpartum journey with baby number 4. So kind of just how everything has been going, how everything has been healing since having baby Asa. This is another video that he will not let me film alone. So he is a special guest again today, but hopefully I will get done everything I have to say before he, needs to eat again or starts crying. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is pain, or like my managing pain, my pain level since having this second cesarean birth. So this was my second C-section, so I kind of knew what to expect as far as like recovery and pain wise. And I just want to say that so far, this has been my hardest postpartum journey out of all of my other births. And I will get into, kind of the reasons why. Pain wise, so I had the spinal as my anesthesia for the C-section, so that was terrific, that was great, and that lasted in my system probably like at least like 12 hours after birth. So even when I was in the recovery room and then I went up to the postpartum floor, I still felt pretty good. Like once I was able to like walk and get up and go to the bathroom, it really wasn't that painful. It wasn't until I feel like the spinal wore off that the pain really hit me. At first I was like, oh, this is not bad at all, because I remember my first C-section and the pain with that, especially in my core and all of that. But after a while, after all the anesthesia wore off, then I really started feeling the pain, and it did hurt a lot. It was really intense. It was even though the postpartum beds are nice and cushy and comfy, like they're not as hard as the labor and delivery beds, it was still hard to get in and out of that bed. It was hard to lay. I didn't really know how to lay in the bed, so I would sit up, I would try to lay on my side. That was a no, I could not lay on my side. So I kind of just laid on my back, kind of elevated, so almost sitting completely up while I was in the hospital. That put the least amount of pressure on my core. So yes, I was in a lot of pain after this delivery. I took Tylenol and ibuprofen pretty much the whole entire time. I was prescribed a narcotic, I think it was Percocet, but I'm just really scared of taking narcotics. My mom has had bad experiences with them, and I know that they, you can't operate vehicles with them, and sometimes they can make you sleepy, and I just didn't even want to try it and see how my body would respond to it. So I kept just with the Tylenol and ibuprofen. So that is what I went home from the hospital with. They did prescribe that for me also, in addition to the Percocet, which I said I didn't take that. I was also prescribed iron pills because my iron levels were so low at the end of my pregnancy and during the birth. And then I also was able to get a prescription for Colace. Now Colace is something you can buy in the store, but I was like, hey, it don't hurt to just ask them for it, so I can get at least that first set of medication all at one time at no cost. So that was awesome. So they sent me home with a lot of pills. I was taking 6, 7, 8 pills at one time. It felt like, and for the ibuprofen and the Tylenol, I would take that at the same time. And then, so it's you could take Tylenol or you could take ibuprofen and alternate them every 3 hours, or you could take both of them together every 6 hours. So that is what I did, and I would try to time it around my breastfeeding times. But yeah, I was taking that combination together every 6 hours, and that seemed to work the best for me this time. It kind of just took the edge off though. I still kind of felt the pain in between those 6 hours, and definitely once it was nearing that 6 hours for me to take it again, I was completely in pain, and so I knew it was time to take it. So yes, that is how it went this time as far as medication. Like I said, I took all of them except for the iron pill. I took that only once, and if you watch my previous video, you know that I've been struggling with the whole hemorrhoid situation, and taking the iron pills kind of adds to that, so it can make you constipated. So that is not something that I wanted to take, but I was prescribed it, postpartum leaving home from the hospital. So the next thing that I want to talk about, which was actually, besides the pain, which is kind of obvious, but a really big issue for me this time, was swelling, extreme swelling. Now I had swelling with my first because I had preeclampsia, so I already was swelling prior to the delivery, and then a little bit afterwards. I swole a little bit for my second birth, I do remember that, and for my third I don't remember that much swelling or no swelling at all. But for this one was so extreme, really extreme, really scary. At the end of my pregnancy, I weighed 207, and by the time I went home from the hospital and weighed myself again here, I was 220, 222. It was almost 20 pounds of swelling, like extra fluid on my body. And that was attributed to a couple of things. Like they had me on a lot of IV fluid in the hospital because one, I was dehydrated, and you know, you have to have it in addition to, like, if you're having a C-section, that's another way that they, you know, run your anesthesia and all that stuff. So they run the IV fluid in addition to that. So, and I remember at one point they were pumping it through like really fast because I was so dehydrated. So that was, you know, kind of a cause of all the swelling. And then also with C-sections, you get swelling anyway, just because, again, things are taken out and they're moved around and pushed to get to baby, and then they're put back in, and so your body kind of has to like redo those things, or like kind of has to heal from that, because that is trauma on the body. So we had that, and it just was like, I think also like my body's response to pain also, and it was really bad. It took a month for the swelling to go down, like, you know, and I was up as some nights. It was so bad, and it was only from, so I would say from like my waist down, or like my hips down, that's where I noticed it. But at first, you know, it started with my feet, like my last day in the hospital, and I was like, I hope it doesn't get too much worse than this. But the moment I went home, it seemed like it got worse, and it's just so much conflicting like information out there as far as like how to get swelling down. They say walk, but don't walk too much. They say, you know, eat some foods, but don't eat, you know, these kinds of foods, and have a little bit of salt and not too much salt. It was just so overwhelming. It really kept me up at night, because when I saw the swelling like coming up my leg, then I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna go all the way up to my heart, and I'm gonna pass out in my sleep and die. Like, I was just so scared. I was Googling all this stuff, you know, just trying to see other women's experiences. Some of them said that, you know, swelling went down for them in about like 2 weeks or whatever, but everyone was like, if it doesn't go down by that 3rd week, then see your doctor immediately. And I did have a couple of postpartum visits. I had like 3 or 4 this time, and you know, I mentioned it at everyone, and they're like, it's okay, it's normal, as long as you don't feel any pain and it's not red or hot, you know, you're fine. And it wasn't. It just was a lot, and it made it hard to walk, it made it hard to sit, it made it hard to do everything. And like every time I would look down at my poor feet, I would just like burst into tears. It really sucked. It really did. And like I said, it took a whole month, so I was dealing with that, you know, from the moment I left the hospital until he was 1 month old. So, you know, I couldn't fit my shoes, and it just made it difficult to do everything. I didn't want to leave the house, even, you know, when I had to go to appointments and stuff like that. I had to wear compression socks. That was a new thing, and it helped a little bit, but because I was so swollen, I couldn't even get them on myself. Like, so it didn't really help unless my mom was here to put them on me, and she would, when she would come over, you know, check on me and help me out and things like that. But I couldn't put them on myself, so that didn't help. So I didn't wear them like every day. And then once they're on, you're not supposed to leave them on, you know, past, I don't know, like 12 hours or whatever. I could take them off on my own. That was a little bit of a challenge, but I could do it. And when she would put them on, it would hurt so bad, especially like around my ankles. It would hurt so bad, and I would be like in tears. But I knew that it did help a little bit having them on. It didn't seem like it went down too much, but it kind of squeezed like my feet and my legs and my calves a little bit, and gave me a little bit of relief. So it kind of was like pushing the fluid up a little bit, and then, you know, me drinking more water and things like that helped the swelling to go down. It really wasn't too much I could do except for just wait it out. I did take some dandelion, and that did seem to help. So I was taking like 1 capsule a day. I read online that that could help with swelling, so, you know, I went out, I bought it, and that did help. Once I started taking that, it kind of turned things around for me. But other than just drinking water and just waiting it out, that's pretty much all I could do with the swelling. And then my weight started to go back down after a month. So the next thing that I want to talk about on this fun postpartum journey has been breastfeeding, or is breastfeeding. Now, breastfeeding has been going great, but when I started breastfeeding, so the first time he latched, you know, like that golden hour after birth, no pain, he got on right away, you know, things was cool. And the whole hospital said actually things were fine also. It wasn't until I got home, and I don't know what it was about coming home that just made, it just seemed to make everything more painful for me. And it did. At that point, his latch started to hurt. Every single time I put him on, it hurt. It was like little sharp, I don't know, like being cut, like my nipples being cut with a sharp knife every time I put them on. And I would just like just kind of brace myself for whenever I had to breastfeed. And you know, he's a newborn, so he's breastfeeding often, every hour, sometimes every 30 minutes if he was cluster feeding. And you know, I would switch and alternate. They hurt so bad, I was like, are they bleeding, are they cracked? I didn't experience any of that, and he seemed to be getting the milk in well. It just, like, I don't know, I think it was really my C-section. Like, my body really doesn't like C-sections, and it doesn't like being induced. And so everything was painful. Like, even my skin hurt. Like, I had bruises from where they tried to put the IVs, and it just was like, it was a whole big thing. But anyway, back to the breastfeeding. I do, you know, I looked in his mouth, and I do think that he has a tongue tie. I didn't bring it up to his doctor because it's not that severe, but it definitely does look like he has one. And I think when he was smaller, you know, when he was a newborn, his mouth was just so small, so it took more work for him to get his whole mouth around the whole nipple, which is, you know, what you want when you're trying to breastfeed, to get a good deep latch. And so until his mouth was around there and he got that deep latch, it hurt a little bit for me because his latch was a little shallow, I'm guessing. And now it's been great, no issues, no problems. It doesn't hurt at all. But in the beginning, so I would say like maybe the first almost 3 weeks, it hurt. And I just think that everything hurt at that point. My body was just, everything was hurting. So yes, you know, and again, I didn't bring it up to the doctor because I didn't think it was that bad, and I knew he was breastfeeding well because he was gaining well, and you know, his output as far as his peeing and poop was well. And I didn't want it to be clipped. Like, in my mind, I was like, I'd rather be in pain than him, even though they say it's painless and it, you know, it's not that bad to get it clipped. I was like, I can tucker through this one. So I do think, again, that he has a little bit of a tongue tie. I don't think any of my other children have had that. And I never really experienced pain initially with breastfeeding them. The only time I experienced pain was like when I was pregnant and still breastfeeding, you know, like one of them. So not so much better now, but yes, it did hurt in the beginning due to his slight tongue tie. Okay, so the next thing that has been kind of a challenge on this postpartum journey has been sleeping. When I came home from the hospital, again, it was easiest for me to sleep upright. And so we have a couch, and it's a lounger. Well, it has a part where you can recline your feet on it, but it also extends back a little bit. So that was my bed for the first 6 weeks, actually. Yeah, I was in it for 6 weeks. Wow, that's crazy. But at first it was due to, you know, not being able to be in any other position other than like on my back. So I would just put my feet up and recline back a little bit and hold the baby, and that's how we slept. Now I know that is frowned upon, so you know, don't try that if you're not comfortable with doing that. But that is what we did those first 6 weeks. I did try to get in my bed at like 4 weeks, but it was unbearable. I could not sleep on my side, and I really don't know what it was. Like, when I explained what I was feeling, like the pain, to my doctor, she said it was like my pubic bone. But all I know is whenever I slept on my side, it just hurt. Like, it just hurt down there. Like, I couldn't sleep on my side. I would wake up in extreme pain and like have to go back downstairs and get back on the couch in the lounger. So that went on for at least 2 more weeks, because I tried like once a week I would try to go and, you know, sleep up here in my bed, and that wouldn't work. And I thought, you know, maybe if I put the pillow in between my knees, that would help, and that actually made it worse. So yeah, the only thing I can think of is that it was bruised. Like, I did get to 5 centimeters, and before that I was already dealing with, you know, pelvic pain and stuff like that down there anyway. And so I just think the whole trial of labor and everything like that made it worse, and it has been the thing that's taken the most or the longest time to heal. I do still have pain in that area a little bit, but it's better now. I am sleeping in my bed, which I'm so grateful for. So yes, I was able to start sleeping in my bed at 6 weeks, but before then, anytime I tried it, it was a no-go. Like, I could spend like maybe 2, 3, or 4 hours at the most up here, but then I would have to go back downstairs just because I was in so much pain, and it hurt even more to sleep on my left side than my right side. So yeah, I tried it pretty much until it stopped hurting, and it didn't really completely stop hurting at 6 weeks. It just hurt a little bit less. And so once I made it through like 8 hours of sleeping up here, I was like, I'm just gonna keep trying every single day, and hopefully it will stop hurting. So yes, that's how sleeping has went. The first 6 weeks I had to sleep kind of upright or kind of semi-reclined, and then I was able to sleep in my bed. And so the last thing that I want to mention for this video is the postpartum screening. Now most women will have their first postpartum or their only postpartum appointment when they're about 6 weeks. postpartum. Now I had one, I think each time, I think a week postpartum due to my blood pressure. So I always had like a blood pressure check at that 1 week mark. So I did have that this time, and you know, that was fine. It wasn't like low, but it wasn't as high as like, you know, to be concerning. So I had that 1 week postpartum, and I believe I took the depression screen at that appointment, and it was high. It was really high. So they had me come back a week later just for like a mental health kind of check-in, which I thought was really nice. I really appreciated that they, you know, they had that for me. So I came back, you know, we just talked things over a little bit with my OB, and I was just telling her how I felt, you know, about how the birth went and everything like that. And the fact that I was in so much pain, I think really added to, you know, my screening being so high, and you know, the way that the birth went, it was unexpected. So that added to things as well. They connected me with an online like therapist, and I signed up for it. I haven't actually done any of the sessions yet, but I am connected with one, which is great, because you know, sometimes you just need that extra help. And they did prescribe me Zoloft this time around. Now I was also prescribed that for my second birth, but I didn't take it, and I didn't take it this time either. I just tried to do my best to talk about my feelings, you know, with people that I trusted. So like my mom and my sisters, you know, I just tried to, whenever I was feeling like really down about things, or you know, about how I was feeling, or about the pain that I was in, or I just felt like my body would never go back to normal. Like I would never enjoy walking again, or never enjoy like going outside with my kids, because everything was so painful. And at that time, it just was all that I could think about. So yes, I talked a lot about those feelings and emotions to get those things out, so that it didn't like overwhelm me. Sometimes it got the best of me, of course. You know, I cried a lot a lot, so like more than baby blues. And you know, postpartum depression is real. It's not something that you can just turn on and turn off. You know, if you need extra help, if you need medication, definitely take it. I didn't take the medication just because I don't like taking medication. Like I was already taking so many pain pills, and you know, the Colace, and just all of those other things, and I didn't want to add one more because I'm breastfeeding, and it is safe for breastfeeding, I will say that. So if you're prescribed Zoloft for, you know, postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression, you know, and you feel comfortable taking it, definitely take it. But I just didn't want to. But I did try my best to just make sure that I didn't stay too much in my thoughts, you know, so that things wouldn't get worse. So that's how those first 2 postpartum visits went. And then I did have my 6-week postpartum visit, which of course is like a whole postpartum body checkup by your OB, or whoever delivered your baby will do it. This time I had someone else, but that was fine too. And it was an internal exam, and then that's usually when they clear you, you know, to exercise again or resume your normal activities. And I was cleared for all of that, so everything was good on that end. And then when I did my postpartum screening that time, it was, you know, within normal levels. It just was so overwhelming, I would say. That first 4 weeks especially, everything was just so new and so fresh, and it was just like really hard to get through that. I am doing so much better now. I am 9 weeks postpartum now, so I'm still in my 4th trimester. And if you would like a video on the 4th trimester, I would definitely do that, because I'm not so sure that everyone knows that there's a 4th trimester. But this is after baby has been born, and you know, up until 3 months postpartum. So that's pretty much mom and baby adjusting now to life outside of the womb. So yes, that has been my postpartum journey so far. That is everything that I can think of. If I forgot anything out, of course I will leave that in the description box. I'm still healing, of course, but I am really grateful for, you know, just how far I've come since the birth, and that I haven't experienced anything too like out of the norm, that I haven't experienced anything too alarming or anything that would have set me back on my postpartum journey. So I'm just taking things day by day, and I'm hoping that all my other mamas out there who are watching, who are also postpartum with their babies, that their bodies are healing nicely as well. That is all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give me a great big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Remember to let your story be your power, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.